Welcome in to Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are taking a look at quarterbacks and head coaches. Specifically, where do Trevor Lawrence and Doug Pederson stack in the NFL in 2022 among head coach and quarterback combinations? Where do they rank among the best? That's what we're going to talk about here today. I think you're going to like the results here, Duval. First, I'd like to remind you to hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube. And if you want to support the channel further, you can check out GenJag.com, pick up some new Duval gear. You can also become a channel member right here on YouTube. If you're on your favorite podcast platform of choice, of course, subscribe and review if you enjoy the content. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for being here and watching all these videos and supporting the channel. It means the world to me. Could not be doing this without you. So getting into this conversation, head coach, quarterback combination. The way I'm looking at this is if you're a fan, owner, GM, whatever you are, who do you want stepping out on that field for you tomorrow at head coach and quarterback? And this is not a straight up ranking of teams or futures or anything like that. There are certainly other factors that go into team building. The team around the quarterback and the head coach is critical in this business. I am fully aware of that. But still, there are not two more important roles on an NFL team right now than head coach and quarterback. If you have a head coach and a quarterback and any semblance of a functional team around them, you probably have an incredibly bright future. It's also important, though, to try to separate these head coaches and quarterbacks when we're talking about them as a combo, as a unit from the situation that they're in, right? Not all quarterbacks and head coaches have the same talent pool around them. That's something we're going to try to parse through as we go through this. And so we're trying to completely eliminate the team around the head coach and the quarterback when we're talking about this conversation. We're talking specifically about the head coach and quarterback combinations, the best in the NFL. And so we're going to roll through this. I'm going to go through teams that I don't believe need to be addressed here. We're going to do that first, and then we're going to have the conversation. Who are the teams with the best quarterback and head coach combination in the NFL today? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Hopefully this is an interesting topic for y'all. I know it was for me as soon as I thought about it. So these are the teams we don't even need to address here. Teams that clearly do not have one of the better head coach and quarterback combinations in the league today. Starting with the AFC. You look around the division at the AFC South. Colts, Titans, Texans. No need to have those conversations. The other teams in the AFC that I think are also out of it, Broncos, obviously you don't like what's going on there. Browns, same thing. I think the Browns you could talk yourself into a little bit more, but you're really going to rank Stefanski and Watson right now among even the top half of the league in terms of quarterback and head coach combo? I would not. Raiders, they're sending Derek Carr home. Steelers, you love Mike Tomlin as a head coach, right? But do they have the quarterback figured out? I don't know. I think Kenny Pickett could be a quality quarterback in this league, but I don't think they belong in the conversation among the very best head coach and quarterback combinations because we simply just don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be in this league. Then you've also got the Jets, who you do like Robert Saleh, I think, as a leader, as a defensive mind. And I think you like Mike White, all right, but is he going to put you in the top half of the league here? Probably not. And then the Patriots, we know that's kind of a hot mess with what they've got going on at quarterback. Mac Jones, yeah, you like some of what you've seen from him, but is he going to be a quarterback that's going to put you in the upper echelon here? I don't think so. NFC, Bears. Really love Justin Fields. Really love what he can do in this league. Think he's going to be a special player for a long time. Is Matt Eberflus a great head coach? I don't know. It's too early to tell, in my opinion. So I don't have them in this conversation. Cardinals. Never been a Cliff Kingsbury fan. So I think he's on his way out, or at least close to it. Falcons, Arthur Smith doesn't have anything really going on there. Quarterback, not a lot going on there. Los Angeles Rams. This is an interesting one to be not even in the conversation, but you talk about Stafford. Is he going to play again? How long is Sean McVay going to be coaching in this league? He's talked about retirement a lot. I don't think you step out on the field with those two right now and you feel like you're in the conversation for the best teams in football. Maybe you could put them towards the bottom of the rankings here, of the top 11 or 12 or so. You could probably put the Rams there, but I don't think you feel like they're really competing at the top with McVay and Stafford right now. And I know that's crazy to say just a year after winning the Super Bowl. But things can change quickly here in the NFL. Saints, no, you obviously don't feel like you have your quarterback and Dennis Allen. He's a good defensive coach, but no. Panthers don't have your quarterback, it looks like, yet. And Steve Wilkes, while he's done a very commendable job since taking over as interim head coach, words are not coming out today. He's done a good job. Really turned things around. They're playing more to their talent level in Carolina, but obviously you don't think that's an elite group there. Commanders, ain't nobody going to be vying for Carson Wentz after this season, and I don't know how long Ron Rivera is for that job either. Seahawks, this is an interesting one. I think you could probably put them in the top 12, 13, just based on what Geno Smith has done this year, and Pete Carroll has kind of adapted to the modern NFL with some of his hirings at defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator. So I think you feel pretty good about that. But are you really going to put Geno up there? I mean, he's playing like it right now, but I'm sorry. I don't really buy it. Love you, Geno. Big fan of you at West Virginia. Big fan of him coming out in the draft back in the day, but I'm not putting Geno up there. Can't do it. Then you look at the Giants. Really love Brian Daboll, but Daniel Jones, to me, not the guy. Bucks, yeah, you've got Tom Brady, but who's your head coach? Right now, it's looking like Todd Bowles has been one of the worst head coaches in the NFL. That was a Super Bowl caliber team, it looked like, and they have just gone, or at least a contending caliber team, and they have been awful. So those are the teams for me that do not belong in this conversation. Colts, Titans, Texans, Broncos, Browns, Raiders, Steelers, Jets, Patriots in the AFC. NFC, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Rams, Saints, Panthers, Commanders, Seahawks, Giants, Bucks. So now we get to have the conversation, right? Who are these top head coach and quarterback combos in the league? These teams that I have in this conversation here, we'll go through the teams and then we'll talk about it. AFC, got the Dolphins, Tua and McDaniel. Chargers, Herbert and Staley. Ravens, Lamar and Harbaugh. Bengals, Burrow and Taylor. Chiefs, Mahomes and Reed. Bills, Allen and McDermott. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence and Doug Pederson. Then in the NFC, you've got Packers, Rodgers, LaFleur. Lions, Goff and Campbell. Vikings, Cousins and O'Connell. Cowboys, Prescott and McCarthy. 49ers, Shanahan and whoever the hell he trots out there. Eagles, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. I think you've got a lot of good quarterback and head coach combos right now. When you're ranking these, though, Lamar's not healthy right now, obviously, and we don't know what Lamar's future is in Baltimore. But John Harbaugh is one of the best head coaches in this league. He's adaptable. He's a great leader. I think he is just one of the very best. And Lamar's one of the best quarterbacks on the planet, too. Definitely a top 5, top 6, 7, 8 type quarterback, depending on the day. But Lamar is one of those unbelievable talents in this league with what he can do, both as a passer and certainly as probably the most electric runner we've seen since Michael Vick. Maybe ever. Quite honestly, Lamar's incredible. But I don't think you have them quite towards the top. The way we're going to structure this, we'll go through the AFC, then we'll go through the NFC, and we'll do the rankings. So I would not have Lamar and Harbaugh in the elite class. They would be right below that for me. If they stick together, we'll see how that plays out. They would be in actually tier 3 for me. Tier 3 of head coach and quarterback combinations. The reason they're not higher is, quite frankly, Harbaugh is not an offensive coach. And for me, almost every single combo here that's going to be in the top tier, that's going to be elite, is going to have an offensive-minded head coach, because when you remove them from their situation, what are they going to be, right? If you remove, let's say, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff from having Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator and having all those weapons for Goff to throw to him, one of the best offensive lines in the game, do you really feel that good about Jared Goff and Dan Campbell in a vacuum? I don't think you do. But I feel very good about Lamar and Harbaugh here. Dolphins, Tua and McDaniel. I think Tua is probably one of the weakest links in this conversation here. When you talk about these top quarterback and head coach combinations in the league, I like McDaniel a lot. I'm not sure that he is in the same weight class as some of the other head coaches that we're talking about here, to be completely honest with you. Just not sure he's quite there yet. But brilliant offensive mind, I think, who is going to have a successful career. But some of these coaches have clearly done a lot more with their careers so far than McDaniel. Sorry, we've got the camera looking like it's trying to focus and defocus here. We'll work on that. But, yeah, I would not have the Dolphins near the top here. I would not have the Ravens near the top. Talking about the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley. For me, Herbert is one of the top young quarterbacks in this game, probably a top 5 quarterback moving forward. Love what Justin Herbert brings to the table. Staley, I like him. I think he's a good leader. I think he gets his players motivated well. I think he's a really great defensive mind overall. But what has he proven as a head coach so far? Not a whole lot. And I don't like the fact that he hung on to Joe Lombardi this year. I know you don't want to fire a coach after 1 year, but to me it's been very clear that Joe Lombardi's offense is not best suited for Justin Herbert's talents. So I would not have Staley and Herbert close to the top tier, to be quite honest. Looking at the Bengals, Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor, Press Taylor's brother. Big fan of Joe Burrow, obviously. This guy, Joe Cool, whatever you want to call him, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, bar none. He just has no pulse, it feels like. Such a clutch player. When you remove them from their situation, though, I think, honestly, Zach Taylor did a pretty poor job of coaching offensively in 2021. And, crazy, right? They went to the Super Bowl. How could you say that? But they were just a really, really basic offense, and they were able to win that way because they had Jamar Chase, because they had T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, and Joe Burrow running the thing. I think Joe Burrow is certainly one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. He's got a bright future, one of the future stars of this league, a current star of this league. But I'm not sure that Zach Taylor is a star head coach. I think you remove him from that situation, and he is not quite the head coach that maybe some people think he is. And I hope I just said Zach Taylor, not Press Taylor. The two brothers here, obviously Press Taylor's Jaguars offensive coordinator. Zach is the Bengals head coach. Sorry if I got those names mixed up. Easy to do for me here. I would have them in the conversation here higher than the other teams we've talked about so far. But I still don't think that Press Taylor is – I keep doing it. Zach Taylor is an elite head coach. I don't think he's in that category, even though Joe Burrow is certainly an elite young quarterback. Then you talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. I mean, they're at the top. For me, they are at the top. Mahomes and Reed, unbelievable combination. Mahomes, I think, is the best quarterback in the game. Andy Reid might be the best offensive mind in the game. So that's elite stuff right there. And then Josh Allen, again, in the conversation for best quarterback in the league right now. And Sean McDermott, while he's not an offensive coach, he is a tremendous culture builder, a tremendous foundational head coach, and a really, really good defensive mind. So they're certainly up there for me at the top. Chiefs and Bills are going to be 1 and 2 for me. Chiefs at the top at number 1. Certainly in the AFC at least. We're going to talk about the NFC, and then we're going to talk about the Jags. Packers, you've got Rodgers and LaFleur, right? I don't think that you love that combination because I don't think that they love each other, but they're both very talented at what they do, right? Aaron Rodgers is still, when he wants to be, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. Matt LaFleur, a very good offensive mind, in my opinion. Goff and Campbell, we talked about. I think if you remove them from their situation, neither of them is superstars. Vikings with Cousins and O'Connell, I think same thing. I like those two, but they have a really good offensive line. They have great running back. They have the best wide receiver in football in Justin Jefferson. They've got a lot to work with there in Minnesota. I think, let's just say, for example, you put Doug Pederson and Trevor Lawrence on the Minnesota Vikings, you feel better about that team than you do with Kevin O'Connell and Kirk Cousins, no question about it. Kirk Cousins is just very limited in his physical ability. But great quarterback when things are clean, no doubt about it. Cowboys, Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. McCarthy's not one of the better head coaches in the league. He's been blessed with some really talented rosters throughout his time in Green Bay and Dallas. And I think that's why you see him having so much success, and he's had really good quarterbacks to work with. Love Dak Prescott, but again, I don't think he's quite in the elite tier. I like him a lot. I just don't think he's an elite quarterback. I think he's one of the guys right below that. Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers and whoever is out there at quarterback is certainly going to be a great combination. Kyle Shanahan's a magician as an offensive play caller and designer. It doesn't matter, seemingly, who's back there at quarterback. And then the Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Love what Nick Sirianni's done with the Eagles so far. I love how Jalen Hurts has looked this year. I was a big fan of him in the draft, big fan of his career. But I think that's another one where if you take them away from their current situation, how successful can they be? And you can say that about pretty much everyone here. But the Eagles have maybe the most talented roster in football around Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni coaching them up. So they're not going to be quite elite tier for me, but they're up there certainly. And then so we got to talk about the Jags. Where do the Jags fit in all this, right? Where do they fit? For me, Chiefs and Bills are at the top, as I mentioned. Then the conversation really starts. Who is next? Who's next? And for me, next is the Jaguars. Yes, the 7-8 Jaguars, Doug Pederson and Trevor Lawrence. I don't think there are 5 more talented quarterbacks in the NFL than Trevor Lawrence. He's shown that over the last 7 games and got this team going on an unbelievable trajectory right now. They've won 5 of 7, they've won 4 of 5, and they have won 3 straight in Jacksonville. And I know that there's been players stepping up around these guys, but Doug Pederson and Trevor Lawrence are obviously the catalysts for success here in Jacksonville. Doug Pederson, I mean, what has he done in his career? Won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, took them to the playoffs 3 straight times. The only times he hasn't taken a team to the playoffs was his first year in Philly when he had a rookie quarterback, and his last year in Philly when Carson Wentz and the rest of that roster kind of melted down and just it was an ugly situation. And now he's got the Jaguars back in position to compete for the playoffs and play their way in the final week of the season in the AFC South title game in Week 18 against the Tennessee Titans. Pederson is an amazing leader, gets guys going in the right direction, gets full buy-in from his team. He is an incredible offensive play caller, and he specifically combined with Trevor Lawrence because Doug knows the experiences that Trevor Lawrence is going through as a quarterback in the NFL. That's an invaluable part of that relationship. The thing that Doug Pederson brings to the table here, his understanding of how people can retain information, how to teach players concepts that are complex, but make it simple for the players, but make it very difficult for the defense to understand and to attack. Clay Harbor and I talked about that yesterday on Believe in Jaguars. Clay was talking about just how good Doug Pederson was at teaching complex information to players and making it simple, making it so they can understand it and execute out on the field. So I think when you look at Doug and Trevor Lawrence, I really don't think that there's three head coach and quarterback combinations that you'd rather have. I think it's the Chiefs, the Bills, and then the Jags. I have the Bengals right after them. I do think Press Taylor has gotten better as a head coach. Did I say Press again? I think I did. So sorry, y'all. It's one of those days. But Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. I don't think Zach Taylor is an elite head coach. I think he is a good head coach. So when you have a good head coach and a really, really elite quarterback like Joe Burrow, I think who is becoming that before our very eyes, I think that they belong right behind the Jaguars. And so I'm also tiering this out. The tiers: Chiefs and Bills, top tier; Jags and Bengals, second tier. Then we have the third tier, which is the biggest tier: Eagles, 49ers, Ravens, Chargers. Then we have Packers, Cowboys, Vikings, and Lions. As I mentioned, I think when you look at these combinations, you like what you have with the Eagles, Sirianni and Hurts. 49ers, you love Shanahan and whoever he's playing at quarterback. Ravens, again, Harbaugh and Lamar. Chargers, Herbert, one of the best young quarterbacks in this game. I think Brandon Staley's going to be a good head coach too. The rest of these, there's either a deficiency at quarterback or a deficiency at head coach where I just can't quite put them in that top 8. But the point of all this is to say the Jaguars have an incredibly bright future and present, and it's all thanks to Doug Pederson and Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. Yes, there are other players stepping up around them, but I think Doug and Trevor are elevating those players. Those guys like Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, they are playing better than they ever have. Same thing can be said about Foye Oluokun, Rayshawn Jenkins, Devon Hamilton. I think that Doug and Trevor are fantastic catalysts that just elevate everything around them. I think that's what you're seeing right now in Duval, and I think that's what you can expect to see for the, next 5, 10, who knows how long this can last, right? You've got a young quarterback, a head coach who is certainly not long in the tooth in Doug Pederson. He's a guy that should be able to coach for a long time. I think if you're a Jags fan out there, you're watching this, there are not many teams in a better situation to win now or win long term than the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, that's due to Trevor Lawrence and Doug Pederson, who I have ranked only behind Josh Allen and McDermott, and then Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I have the Jaguars at 3, Chiefs at 1, Bills at 2. I think you could probably make some arguments that the Jags maybe are 4 or 5, maybe. For me, though, I don't think that there's really that much of an argument. I really see Doug and Trevor as the clear third best combo of head coach and quarterback. And that's wild to say, isn't it? Wild to think about just how much the Jaguars' fortunes have changed over the last couple years. Getting Trevor Lawrence in here in 2021, lucking into that number 1 pick in, the best draft you could ask for with Trevor Lawrence at the top there. And then getting Doug Pederson this offseason. They went about a very roundabout way of getting Doug Pederson in here as the head coach, but whether it was luck or all part of the plan, you can debate that among yourselves. The fact of the matter is that Doug Pederson is in Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence is in Jacksonville. And whether that was luck or, great job by GM Trent Baalke, great job by the owner, you can debate that amongst yourselves. Again, bottom line is Jags have an elite pairing of head coach and quarterback. That should get you really fired up. And tomorrow we will be talking about Jags and Texans, the Week 17 matchup that has no impact at all for the Jaguars on winning the division, winning the AFC South, but does have an impact on the wild card round. If the Jaguars are not able to beat the Titans in Week 18, but they do beat the Texans in Week 17, they still have a chance at squeaking by and getting in as a wild card due to the Jaguars' So we will take a look at that. It's going to be an important matchup. The Jags are going into this one. They've talked about it, Doug Pederson, Trevor Lawrence, as if this is any other game, must-win game, just another game during another game in the season, and they're all important according to Doug Pederson. So they're not going to go in and rest players or anything like that. They're going to go into this game against Houston and prepare like they need this one, because they could potentially need this one. It could get them into the wild card round if some things fall certain ways over the next couple weeks. But we'll get into all that tomorrow. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'd love to know what y'all think about the head coach and quarterback rankings and tiers that I've put together here, what y'all's opinions are. You can hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Let me know what you think. You can also drop comments in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Helps the channel immensely. Thank you so much for tuning in, Duval.